Hello everybody, welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, the most popular homesteading channel on the entire internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. Today's video has to do about a paradigm shift, if you will. Taking 1 hour out of your life to perhaps learn how to see things in such a way that you perhaps never have. And if you are willing to take action toward your new views, perhaps changing your life in such a way that you can live in a way in which you never dreamed. Now, what am I talking about? This is a book review. I didn't write it. This isn't one of mine. This is a book called Who Moved My Cheese? I say taking an hour, not because the video is going to be an hour, but because this book is like 92 pages long, and that's about how long it takes to read it. I actually read it in two settings this time. I read it 25 years ago when I was in business. Brushed up on it again recently because I've been quoting it in videos, and I'm always telling my wife she needs to read it. And so yeah, take an hour to read this. I didn't know this until I read the preface in here in the latest edition. The author, Dr. Spencer Johnson, died in 2017. I didn't realize that. Rest in peace, Dr. Johnson. But this is actually the #1 best-selling book of all time on Amazon. I had no idea, but it's easy to understand why. I'm not going to give you so many spoilers that it's not worth your time to read the book. It's still worth the time to read the book, but I'm going to do like a paraphrasing of the story and the meaning behind it. And the reason I wanted my wife to read it is for the same reason I'd recommend a lot of you folks read it. About a year or so ago, I decided that I would kind of take it upon myself to kind of find ideas or find some ways for folks who maybe don't have the highest education levels or the most advanced skill sets to be able to make some extra money in their spare time, or, primary flow of income if they needed that. I found a few things, talked about one here just a couple of weeks ago, Uber. Maybe it was a week ago, after I realized, we had an Uber driver when we went to Baltimore to see the Bryan Adams concert and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts concert, who actually left teaching because she could make 4 or 5 times as much driving Uber, working half the hours as she made teaching, and she didn't have to put up with all the headaches of dealing with what she had to deal with as a teacher. Found some other ideas, things I practice myself, Etsy, selling some stuff on Etsy, self-publishing author. Of course, not everybody's a writer. And of course, social media content creation. And we have multiple channels, multiple pages on multiple networks. But it always comes down to this. People are unwilling to make change if they're comfortable. If, you see, this is 2023 as of this recording, and you hear a lot about Gen Z. They're still at home. They're living with their parents. A lot of them aren't working. And you'll hear a lot of people complaining about this. You don't hear the Gen Zers that are doing that complaining about it because they're comfortable. Usually the people that you hear complaining about it are the parents who are sucker enough to allow their adult children to freeload off of them. They keep saying, when are they going to figure out what they want to do? I hope that maybe they'll become motivated and blah, blah, blah. Why would they? They're comfortable. They don't have bills. They don't have to work. And this isn't a knock on Gen Z. This is to point out human nature. Okay, right now, I'm comfortable. Now, I have a beautiful place here. I have a nice spread. I have property. I've got comforts. I've got conveniences. I could ratchet things up a bit and literally double my income in a matter of months. And you're thinking, why don't you? Because just as I described using Gen Zers as an example who live at home with their parents, I'm comfortable where I am. I've got 6 acres. I live in the woods. I've got a beautiful wife, a wonderful son. Our needs are met. Our bills are paid. We've got money in the bank. There's food we're comfortable. So if I were to ratchet things up to double my income in 3 or 4 months, I'd have to give up some of my comforts. Those comforts being every waking hour of my life spent with my wife and kid, minus the 20 to 30 minutes a day I'm out making content for social media, the various platforms, or the couple hours a day in which I write. But I usually do that before they even wake up in the mornings because I get up at 5 a.m. I enjoy my daily exercise routine. I enjoy taking care of my flora and my fauna, watering my fruit orchard if we haven't had rain. I'm not willing to give that up to make money that I really don't need, and it's because I'm comfortable where I am. Now, what this book really amplifies or points out is that as human beings, we have three parts of our psyche which really causes us to think and act the way we do. We've got instinct, which is animalistic in nature, but we are animals. In Eastern culture, people rely on their instincts much more than they do in the West, especially in America. Here in the U.S., our society has gotten to the point to where they pretty much teach, without coming out and saying it, that your instincts are wrong and that instincts are offensive. For example, let's say they're trying to play you. Somebody's trying to take advantage of you, okay? But they're smiling when they're doing it. They're being friendly, okay? Your gut's telling you this individual's trying to take advantage of me, and I know it. Well, in Eastern culture and much of the West, they would act upon that by exiting that person's presence and not allowing them the opportunity to take advantage of them. In the U.S., we're taught now, wait a minute, this person hasn't done anything. Don't use that yet word. They're smiling, they're being friendly. If you think they're going to take advantage of you, then the problem's with you. Could it be that you think this because this person is fill in the blank? Different sexual preference, different religion, different ethnicity, different skin color than you? Because if so, then we're going to cancel you. So we've gotten to the point in American culture to where we're afraid to listen to our instincts. I was like that for many years, and I joined the U.S. Army, and I went to combat in Iraq, and my instincts kept me alive. It was nice having my instincts turned back on in the U.S. Army. I felt, I'll tell you, I was dangerously close to becoming a beta male. I'd married a feminist, strong, independent woman, as she referred to herself. We all know what that means. And I'd become a beta male. I became a man again when I went to basic training down in Fort Benning, Georgia. Joined the infantry, went to airborne school, and then fought in a war. When I got home, I did not turn off my instincts, and I still very much listen to them. So this please and thank you crap, okay, whatever. That's passive aggressiveness. Listen, you say please when you mean it and when you want something. You say thank you after something has been done for you to show your appreciation. If you're saying please and thank you up front, you're saying, I'm assuming you're going to do this for me because I want you to, and I'm going to act like I appreciate the fact that you've done this for me once you have, even though you haven't done it yet. It's called entitlement and assumption. Trust me, I'm getting on with it. So we've got instinct. Okay, number two is we have reason. This is supposedly, other than opposable thumbs, what separates us from the rest of the animal world. We have the ability to reason. I remember years ago we had chickens and they had chicks, they had little babies, and we had a dog for a very short while. It was a puppy, and he would hang out in front of the chicken pen. And when these little chicks would come out, if one were to get out, he'd kill it. I mean, it's just, to be blunt, he would kill it. And you could see the other chicks and the chickens just losing their mind in holy terror inside while that dog played with that chicken like it was a dog's toy. And then as soon as he was done, he'd lay back down by the pen, and then another chick would escape the pen, and he would kill that one. Now, we would get out there and stop it if we saw it from the window or whatever. And anybody who's had dogs or chickens or rabbits or any sort of livestock or pets knows that they've experienced this. If you're in a subdivision and you've got your invisible fence, don't be blasting me in the comment section about responsible pet ownership. Please and thank you. Okay, so my point of that story is, as gruesome as it might be taken, is that those chicks or those chickens couldn't reason. They couldn't logically see, oh, okay, so that chick escaped the pen and that big hairy monster out there killed it. So I better not escape this pen or it's going to kill me. That's an example of reason. And that's an example of how animals don't have it. We do. And then thirdly, okay, we've got instinct, we've got reason, and then we've got emotion. Emotion. This ruins a lot of people, most people. there's a philosophy out there, and a lot of people will blast me in the comments for this too because of who came up with the philosophy. A woman named Ayn Rand. She had defected from Russia as a child, grew up in America. She's very pro-capitalist. She created a philosophy called objectivism, and she explains that philosophy quite clearly in her novel Atlas Shrugged. But one of the main points of objectivism is that we need to make decisions based upon reason and logic, not emotion. Okay? And that's a big part of this book. And I promise you I'm getting to it. This is like you're having a Psychology 1001 crash course here before I get into this, and you'll understand why. Now, a real life example for this that I'll use is my marriage and my business marriage. Here's what I mean by that. One of the greatest decisions I ever made in my marriage that has contributed to a successful marriage is that I include my wife in every single decision I make. Financial decision about our son, decision of where we're going to live, what we're going to do. 100%. It's been effective, and it's been nothing but a positive. She doesn't really understand finance so much, but before I make any investment, any such thing, or maybe pay down debt in such a way to rid ourselves of that albatross quicker, I explain the process to her, and she always says, just do it. I don't understand it. You used to be a financial planner, just do it. And I tell her, I know you don't understand, honey, but I want you to be informed because you're my partner. Okay? So best decision I ever made in my marriage is I tell my wife everything. Worst decision I ever made in business is that I would include my wife in all of my business decisions. Now, why was that such a terrible decision? And I'm going to get to it here when I talk about the book, coming soon. She's not a business person. She's never been in business. She has no business mindset. She doesn't understand business concepts. Now, she's a hard worker. She's got more work ethic than just about anybody I've ever known. And this goes back to, when she was in second or third grade, selling vegetables in the market at 3 a.m. so that she could have enough money to be able to go to school and afford to buy her lunch. She grew up in the Philippines, third world country, and there's no free lunch programs there. So she'll outwork me. She'll still to this day outwork me. But she never owned and operated a successful business. So time to get to the story. And I'll bring this back up about my wife and how that was very detrimental in my business by allowing her to take part in all business decisions too. I no longer do this, and she agrees that it's a good thing that I no longer involve her in all of my business decisions because she knows she doesn't understand business. So in the story, there are 4 characters. There are 2 mice and 2 little people, the size of mice. They all 4 live in a maze. The names of the characters are Sniff and Scurry. These are the mice. And then there are 2 little people. One is called Him, and Him, and the other is called Ha. They live in a maze, and they live off of cheese. They eat cheese. Scurry and Sniff, the mice, kind of represent instinct. Because Sniff goes around sniffing, he points in the direction of the cheese, Scurry takes off running down there and finds it, and then they enjoy the cheese. Ha represents human brain who uses logic and reason, and Him represents emotion. His main emotion in the story is fear. So they go to the same place every day, and they eat cheese every day. That's called Cheese Substation C, okay? The mice, they'll put on their running shoes. They run they always keep their shoes hung around their neck in case they need to use them again quickly. Well, Him and Ha, they don't do that. They get very comfortable, like I am. The example I used about why I'm not willing to ratchet things up and double my income in the next 3 months. I'm comfortable where I am. I hang my hats, all 20-some UVA hats I have here on the hat rack, and I've got my comfortable bed, and I've got my my gardens and the places I like to hike and jog in the mornings. I'm comfortable, so I hang my shoes up on a shoe rack. Okay, that's what Him and Ha did. They got comfortable. The cheese to them represents status. It represents success. They became very egotistical because of this cheese. For Sniff and Scurry, who rely on instinct, cheese represents substance. Well, they all show up at substation C one day and the cheese is gone. Somebody moved their cheese. Well, Sniff and Scurry take their running shoes off their neck, put them on, and head back out into the maze. They're out looking for new cheese. Well, him and Haw, now, they've got human brains. Him especially, very analytical, very intelligent, high IQ. Him probably has the highest IQ of any character in the book. So he says, well, they'll bring it back. We've done this for years. We've been coming here for years, and the cheese has always been here. It's just not here today. It'll come back. Let's just wait. Haw's like, well, I don't know. Sniff and Scurry went out there. You think we ought to join them? No, they're not as smart as us. Look, we're the smartest people in the room. They're like mice. Let them go. We're so smart. Let's just wait. We're too smart to go out there and look for new cheese. So they wait. But the cheese doesn't come. And they become weaker and weaker. And finally, Haw says, you know what? It's not so much that we're smart as it is that we're kind of arrogant and lazy. And if we don't go out and look for this new cheese, we're going to waste away to nothing. We're going to starve. This is going to be the end. But him, no, we just have to wait longer. Everything's cyclical. It all comes back. It's all about the numbers. Cheese was here for X amount of time. We just need to be patient and wait. That's what he does. Well, Haw goes out looking for new cheese. I don't want to tell you how it ends up because I would ruin it. I would ruin your 1 hour reading session for you. But what I'll tell you is that Haw, a little more to the story, had to overcome fear. He had to overcome the fear of change. Just like I'm comfortable where I am, and just as most of you watching this video are comfortable where you are, the thought of just moving somewhere new, getting a new job, doing things differently, that's a little bit scary. And him, he didn't word it as such because he was very proud. He was very dignified, as we would say here in the South, which means he was a snob. He didn't want to admit to his fear, but he lived off of fear. He was scared to death he wouldn't be able to find the cheese. He was scared to death of what challenges might lay waiting for him out there in that maze. And this is representative of parts of all of us. We all have instinct, we all have the ability to reason, but we also have a tendency to listen to our emotions, in this case, fear. Well, Haw realized he had to laugh at himself. He had to laugh. He had to say, yeah, there might be a big hairy monster out there, like the dog with the chicks, out there in that maze if it gets me. But if I starve to death, that's going to get me anyway. And so he'd laugh, and he went out and he started looking for cheese. I'll tell you this much. He found new cheese, and he stood ready ever after to go look for new cheese again if he needed to. So I'm going to bring back up the thing about my wife. Years ago, 7 years ago, we used to blog. That was back during the heyday of blogging. Well, blogging was on its way out. And we watched as our revenues dropped to the point to where we were looking at losing this beautiful home we have, this beautiful property. We'd been here a couple of years, and I kept telling her, I need to do something different. We need to leave the blogosphere, and we need to go to, and I told her, video content is where it's at now. It's not fake news. It's video content. We need to go to YouTube and set up a YouTube channel and make it there. And she said, no, just wait. Well, I did, because at the time I was including her in all of my business decisions. Because at the time I viewed it as if I was including my wife in all of my life's decisions, because that's how you have a good marriage. Yes and no. We learned through that experience that if your spouse doesn't understand business and you're a business person, you don't need to involve them in all of your business decisions. Now, does that mean I've succeeded 100% of the time since I stopped involving her in all the business decisions? Absolutely not. I've failed multiple times. I will continue to fail. I understand that failure is part of success. When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, they asked him how he did it. He said, well, I first had to find out 10,000 ways how not to invent a light bulb. So I had to get a job. I worked at the post office. I hated that job. It made me miserable. I worked 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 and sometimes 7 days a week. Worked once 17 days straight without a day off. Went for a week once without seeing my son, because when I'd leave in the morning to go to work, he was in bed. And when I got home at night at 10:30 or 11, he was in bed. But during that 6-month period, I started this YouTube channel. And it took 6 months to build it up and finally get monetized and finally earn enough revenues to where I could quit that job. Lesson learned was, just as Ha learns in the book, when that cheese moves, or actually when they're starting to move the cheese, I saw the blogosphere I saw that bubble bursting before it burst. Like sniff and scurry. If those instincts are sounding that alarm, act on those instincts. If I'd have waited another month, I wouldn't be doing this right here. And the atmosphere and the environment's changed again because of TikTok. I used to come on here. Many of you have followed my videos for years, and like this one, I could make a 20 to 30 minute long-winded video, and you could watch it and feel like only 3 minutes went by because I barely take a break to breathe. Well, and then there's all those things in the woods, like you probably just heard moving around, that we'd see in the background. But anyway, the days of running a profitable social media platform on 20 to 30 minute long videos, they're not over for everybody. There's still people that can do it. But TikTok greatly changed the landscape. People's attention spans were getting shorter and shorter anyway, especially with the younger generations, especially with Generation Z, who is the primary user of social media. People want to be entertained in 20 seconds or less, and a minute is a long time. But that's where the market went. So last year, there were a couple of reasons why this channel started declining in viewership and revenues. The cheese was moving, and this time I moved with it. So in January, we went to Facebook, and we have a page called Sick Twisted Humor, and I make 5 or 6 1-minute long videos a day. They're jokes, and we're crushing it. We're getting 20 million views a month because that's where the cheese is right now. I didn't ask my wife for permission to do that. I didn't say, honey, I think this is what we need to do. I did it because I knew that that's what needed to be done. In time, hopefully not for a while, but in time, the cheese will move again. And if I want to remain successful as a social media content creator, I need to move with that cheese when it moves. Now, the Hims of the world, the people who do something that works for a while and then refuse to change because of their intelligence and because of their ability to reason. Listen, that's stupid. That's not smart. In business, we call that analysis paralysis. It's because you think and you think and you think and you analyze so much that you become paralyzed and you never take action. And then the next thing that happens is exactly what happened to the dinosaurs. They didn't change. They became extinct. So again, don't want to give you too many spoilers, but let's see. I think I bought this book for $12 on Amazon. Who Moved My Cheese? If you truly want to be successful in life, whether it's in your relationships or if it's in your business or your job, if you simply have a job, take 1 hour to read this. It's kind of like a parable or a fable with these lessons in it. I highly recommend it. I like I said, I read it 25 years ago. I wanted to brush up on it again because I'm going to have my wife read it. She wants to read it. She's going to read it this week. But listen, the story's great. The principles are great, but you've got to take action. Okay? Having information in your head, knowledge, that's great, but acting on it is what leads to achievement. That's what leads to success. And by the way, this experience is what leads to wisdom, okay? Knowledge and wisdom are two entirely different things. There are a lot of dum-dums with master's degree from Ivy League colleges who've never done anything in life and therefore possess no wisdom. There are dumb hillbillies like me from West by God, Virginia, who maybe don't have an Ivy League degree but has some real-world experiences. It's got a little bit of wisdom that they can pass on to others. I hope you pick this up. See you for more next time.